From WNDU, your breaking news and weather authority, this is News Center 16 at 11.
A heartbreaking day for St. Joseph and for all of us across Michiana. Two men with decades of experience protecting our community.
Men beloved by their brothers and sisters in arms, dedicated men with lifetimes of service, killed by an inmate trying to escape the Berrien County Courthouse.
Our hearts are torn apart. They were our friends. They were my colleagues. I have known them for over 30 years. So it's a sad day.
And now on this sad night, as we mourn, we learn more about who those men were and the horrible crime that took their lives. Practically on the heels of the tragedy in Texas, two more lawmen are shot to death. This time it is here at home in the Berrien County Courthouse. Good evening, I'm Maureen McFadden.
And I'm Terry McFadden. The victims were longtime bailiffs at the Berrien County Courts building in St. Joseph, men with distinguished careers serving the public. They are 63-year-old Ronald Kinzel and 61-year-old Joe Zangaro. Kinzel was a retired sergeant with the Benton Charter Township Police Department and an Army veteran who began working at the courthouse in 2005. Zangaro had been head of courthouse security since 2004. Before that, he was a Michigan State trooper and the longtime commander of the Bridgman Post.
And this is the gunman, 45-year-old Larry Darnell Gordon of Coloma. Our sister station Wood TV says he was being held on sexual assault charges. He was being moved from a holding cell when he got a hold of a deputy's gun, shot and injured him, then shot and killed Zangaro and Kinzel, and shot and injured a civilian before two other bailiffs shot and killed him.
We have team coverage from St. Joseph. Maria Catanzarite spoke with family members of the deputy who survived and is expected to recover, James Atterbury. But we begin now with Eli Gehn, who was at the news conference with Sheriff Paul Bailey just 2 hours ago. And Eli, it was very emotional.
And yeah, absolutely very emotional, Terry. And you can see throughout the day, especially from Sheriff Paul Bailey and some of the other officers that were on scene, you saw it in their facial expressions, how emotional they were as they went through each press conference through the afternoon and into this evening. Now, how this all unfolded, and you guys mentioned some of this detail earlier, this is according to the press release from the Berrien County Sheriff's Department. Around 2:15 this afternoon, Gordon was being escorted by Officer Atterbury Jr. to a court hearing inside the Berrien County Courthouse. Now, Gordon, who was said not to show any history of violence, was being escorted into the courtroom without handcuffs. Gordon was then able to disarm Atterbury and then shooting him in the arm. Now, after shooting Atterbury, Gordon briefly attempted to take hostages. Now, after about 5 minutes of these actions, other bailiffs and officers whose names have not been released at this time engaged Gordon, and he was then shot and killed. Now, obviously, the investigation is still ongoing as officers and investigators try to provide more specific information on what occurred. But most importantly, on this day, you guys, the Berrien County Police Department didn't only lose two officers of the law, but two friends and two family members in Joseph Zangaro and Ronald Kinzel.
Prayers are with the families of Joe Zangaro and Ron Kinzel. They were well-respected people in our community. They had been in law enforcement for over 40 years, and they were just loving guys, and their life was tragically ended today. And we'll sort those details out and try to deal with our loss as we move forward throughout the weeks.
And now just over an hour ago, you guys, the bodies were being escorted out of the courthouse just on the opposite side of this building as they were being transported to a hospital in Grand Rapids for further autopsy, you guys.
All right, and of course the Berrien County Courthouse will be closed tomorrow. And Eli,
yes,
the fourth person shot, a civilian woman. Police are not releasing her name, but we do know a little bit about her condition, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, she is actually in stable condition. She was also shot in the arm, which ended up obviously just, turning out to be a bad day, a sad day, and an unfortunate day here in St. Joseph, Michigan, you guys.
All right, Eli Gehn kicking off our coverage tonight in St. Joe, Michigan. Eli, thank you.
And we're learning much more in just the last few minutes about the gunman from his ex-wife.
45-year-old Larry Darnell Gordon was being moved from a holding cell when he stole a deputy's gun and started shooting. As we said, he was in jail on sexual assault charges. His ex-wife says she spoke to him yesterday and he gave no indication he was planning a jailbreak or attack.
All he wanted to do was get home to our baby girl, and to me, he wanted to try and reconcile with me. I don't want the press to paint a picture of him as some angry, violent person. Nobody knows the truth because they weren't there. They don't know why he was in jail because they weren't there. I don't want the lies. I don't want the speculation.
Well, of course, her rationale will be hard for any of us to understand, with 2 men dead and 2 other people injured by Gordon.
A man whose actions have rocked an entire community.
Tonight across the area, many folks are bowing their heads to pay tribute to the victims shot and killed at the Berrien County Courthouse. People came together for a vigil this evening at First Presbyterian in Benton Harbor. Churchgoers and local religious leaders sang songs of peace for the fallen bailiffs. They also prayed for the officers killed in Dallas, as well as Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, who died in officer-involved shootings last week.
Coming together as people of faith gives us courage, gives us hope, and gives us, we can do things when we're together through the power of our faith in Christ, God through Christ, and that's why we're here.
The pastor also lifted up an area pastor's son, the sheriff's deputy who survived the courthouse tragedy. As for the sheriff's deputy, many held James Atterbury Jr. in prayer this evening at a vigil in Benton Harbor. Maria Catanzarite spoke to the deputy's uncle, so does he know how Atterbury's doing?
Well, when I last spoke to that uncle a few hours ago, he said his nephew, he was going through surgery at that time. He had been shot once in the finger, once in the hand, and also once in the upper arm, but thankfully he said he's expected to be okay. And many remembered Deputy Atterbury Jr. at this church, Brotherhood of All Nations Church of God in Christ. That's the same church where his father preaches, and that's where I met Robert Atterbury, the uncle, who is calling today an absolute nightmare. He says he got a call from his brother who told him about the shooting this afternoon at the courthouse. Now, he says it's believed that the deputy was escorting that inmate when the man got a hold of that gun, and the uncle says his nephew has always wanted to be a police officer ever since he was a kid. And if you ask another longtime family friend, he'll tell you the deputy is one of the cops who treats anybody he encounters with respect.
The other day, I just heard about what happened down in Texas, and now this strikes home, my own family. And, you know, as I said, my nephew is a good guy. All he had been trying to do was serve his community for over 20 years.
Nice kid, man. Yeah, you don't get it nicer than that. And sometimes these things happen to the nice guys. But I thank God for the prayer power of his family. Certainly, it must be the prayer of the church. It is the prayer of the church that protects us in times like this.
Now, speaking of prayer, both of those men said that Atterbury Jr. is a very skilled preacher, sometimes coming in to substitute for other preachers, and he also is married and has children himself.
Okay, Maria, was the uncle able to see Atterbury?
Yeah, he was. Now, earlier this evening, he was able to see him. They weren't able to talk too much. He said his nephew was kind of going in and out. He was in a lot of pain, but he made sure to let him know that there were a lot of people praying for him, including himself.
All right, Maria Catanzarite live. Thank you.
As state police and deputies surrounded the courthouse, many nervous men and women with family inside the building gathered outside. Mike Ramsey says his wife and daughter were on the 4th floor of the courthouse when he was told to leave. With dozens more employees working at the courthouse, many of their friends and family spent hours waiting for an update from officers. Vernon Barrett says he brought his son to St. Joe to meet with his probation officer. Marnette was parked outside waiting when the shooting occurred.
Feeling sad for the officers and the people, the innocent people. And if somebody pulls the trigger, they wasn't innocent, it's the other people. The main thing, if I'm concerned, I'm not concerned. The threat's gone. He's down, he's out, that's it.
Both Ramsey's family and Barnett's son were fine. State police detectives and other officers questioned everyone in the building before allowing them to leave. And reactions are pouring into the St. Joseph community from lawmakers across the state and those who call Southwest Michigan home.
Governor Rick Snyder traveled to St. Joe earlier today. Here's what he had to say.
This is a terrible event to have happen, and we need to rally together to support one another. And you can see that from the community members with me and the law enforcement members with me, but we should all be standing together to say, how do we support one another, and how do we work to make sure these things don't happen? So thank you.
Support for the victims of the shootings is pouring in from all over. We had a moment with Benton Harbor Mayor Marcus Mohammed, who extends his prayers and condolences to all of the families.
Well, I think the biggest thing is unity. As we look at this tragedy, I think collectively and together, if we pull together, of course, prayers, but just think about our fellow neighbor in times like this. And I think that, together we can pull through it and hopefully come out stronger.
Senator John Prose of St. Joseph had this to say. At the time of the incident, I was just a block away from the courthouse. I can therefore attest to the professionalism and outright heroism of law enforcement agencies.
Congressman Fred Upton put out this statement about the shooting in his hometown. This tragic event reminds us all too well that our law enforcement officers have their lives on the line every day, not knowing what that day will bring.
U.S. Senator Gary Peters said this: I join my fellow Michiganders in grieving for all those affected by this senseless tragedy, including the two public servants who lost their lives.
Michigan State Representative Al Pasholka said this: we are in a very difficult time across America right now, and this is hitting very close to home. I have faith our local law enforcement officials will sort out the details involved in the shooting in the hours and days to come.
The harrowing radio call went out to all Berrien County police, fire, and ambulance crews at around 2:20 this afternoon. Police
scanners offering insight into the chaos and the urgency of the situation at the courthouse.
As you're about to hear, within a matter of minutes, unit after unit chiming in over the radio that they were en route to the courthouse in downtown St. Joseph.
802 Berrien, priority at the courthouse. Man on the second floor with a gun. We got hostages.
Clear, 802, second floor courthouse, shots fired, hostages.
Berrien, no shots fired yet. We have him cornered on the second floor. He has a gun with a hostage.
Clear on no shots fired, male with a gun has a hostage. 5328, show you around negotiator. Clear, shots fired, shots have been fired.
Clear, shots fired, one down, one down.
Shots fired, one down.
The channel farm.
And Terry, we were listening to that, of course, in the newsroom today on the police scanners. And as much as we hear this all day, this was really horrifying to pay attention to. And not be able to really report it because it was scanner traffic. And we had to wait for the officials to give us
official confirmation,
right.
Because we've heard similar traffic like that in the past, and it turned out to be a drill.
Right.
And what was most sobering was knowing it was not a drill. It was the real thing.
And you could tell. And stay with News Center 16, both on air and online, as we continue to follow this chilling tragedy that has struck St. Joe, Michigan, and many around the rest of Michiana to our core. We'll bring you much more in the days ahead about the investigation and memories of the two men who gave their lives serving their community.
There was some major tinkering at the top of Indiana's Democratic Party ticket today. It was learned that former Senator Evan Bayh would be a late addition to the November ballot. Bayh has decided to fight to regain the seat he gave up 6 years ago. The path for Bayh's comeback was cleared after Berrien Hill withdrew from the race late this morning.
What you saw this morning is one of those rare, selfless, non-ego-driven acts in politics, with Berrien Hill choosing to defer to the much better known and better financed candidate, Evan Bayh, to try to reclaim this Senate seat.
Berrien Hill's chances, in your estimation?
Almost nil. He was not raising much money. He didn't have name recognition. He'd been away from politics, I think, for too long. He ran because there was nobody else running.
Bayh heads into the race with a $10 million political war chest.
The big political question these days, who are the candidates' VP picks? Republican nominee Donald Trump is expected to make his announcement first ahead of next week's RNC convention. But this time tomorrow, presidential candidate Trump will return to the Hoosier State for a rally in Westfield. Beside him will be Governor Mike Pence, who's said to be high on Trump's short list for vice president. If asked to speak at tomorrow's rally, Governor Pence says he would. Pence was quoted today saying Trump is the strong leader America needs.
We're learning tonight that John Bradamus, a Mishawaka native and longtime Indiana congressman, as well as former president of New York University, has died. Bradamus was born in Mishawaka and graduated from South Bend Central High School. He was elected to 11 terms in Congress and served as House Majority Whip during his last 4 years in office before losing to John Hyler during the 1980 Reagan landslide. Then, in 1981, Bradamus was named NYU's president and held that position until 1992. Bradamus's wife, Mary Ellen, says he died today in New York. He was 89 years old. Senator Joe Donnelly released this statement following Bradamus's passing, saying in part, "John was a dear friend of mine, and I was privileged to represent the same Indiana congressional district. To know his impact is to know the congressional seat was referred to as the Bradamus seat decades after he served Hoosiers in Congress."
He was the real deal.
Yes.
Well, still ahead, hot and muggy night across Michiana, but we're in for some storms to cool us down. Mike's in next with our Storm Team 16 forecast.
Plus, a crash between a motorcycle and a car left the motorcyclist dead. Here are the charges the driver now faces.
Tracking inconvenient weather where you live. Storm Team 16 is your weather authority.
My wife has some relatives that live in north central Minnesota, and they have been told to expect catastrophic flooding over the next 24 hours. And you can see why. About 12 straight hours, showers and thunderstorms have been hitting. These have been heavy thunderstorms have been hitting that same area. And so that could get really bad there. It does appear to be finally moving away, but we'll have to see how those rivers and streams do. This batch of thunderstorms over Iowa should dive to the south. Neither one of these coming our way anytime soon. Definitely not tonight, and probably not even tomorrow morning. There's 16 Doppler Max, dry conditions, even though it is humid out there, obviously. There's no rain falling, and it will stay that way overnight. There's our downtown South Bend sky view showing the river lights this evening. Still 78 degrees right now, 74% relative humidity. Winds are southerly at 6, and some spots in Michiana still above the 80-degree mark, like Benton Harbor, 81 degrees. Everybody else mid to upper 70s, so one of the muggier nights we've seen so far. Here's what the future looks like with 16 Future Track. There's the big picture. Warm fronts to the north of us, obviously. Showers and thunderstorms developing Minnesota and Iowa. Future Track brings them east and then weakens them, and that's typical in this situation. So it doesn't get these here at all, but it does kind of lay down an area where it's kind of unstable at that point. And there's 2 p.m. Watch what happens. That area redevelops then with some showers and thunderstorms, and they come through here. Now, this is our computer model showing late tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening, a decent chance for a shower or thunderstorm. Then it keeps it mainly dry as we head into the day Wednesday. There's 7 a.m. Watch the time below the line. Typically, when a cold front's approaching in the afternoon, you'd have a pretty good chance for thunderstorms developing. Future Track not really showing that until we get into Wednesday night, and then it shows a pretty decent area coming through. Thursday, then, still a slight chance for a thunderstorm. That second front may never make it here. Here's my Storm Team 16 forecast for all of Michiana for tonight. Clear to partly cloudy, mild and muggy, low temperature down to 70 degrees. 7-day planning forecast, yellow days across the board for now. Chance of an afternoon thunderstorm tomorrow, again on Wednesday, maybe lingering into Thursday. By the weekend, it's still warm and rather humid, but not as hot and humid. So a little bit more tranquil over the weekend.
That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Well, coming up, folks, are buzzing in Warsaw after a massage parlor was shut down.
Find out why and what could come of further investigation. Story and more news next. Gehn Massage in Warsaw was shut down following a months-long investigation uncovering evidence of prostitution.
2 employees, Yili Lau and Leland Chu, were booked in the Kosciuszko County Jail on misdemeanor charges of prostitution. Gehn Massage is located in the 400 block of Circle Drive West in Warsaw. The search warrant was initially issued so investigators could seize evidence related to corrupt business influence, tax evasion, prostitution, and promoting prostitution. Police say the investigation is ongoing and additional arrests are probable because the investigation is ongoing.
One woman has been charged in a motorcycle accident that killed one person. Lisa Dean is charged with causing death while operating a vehicle under a controlled substance. She was also charged with driving with a suspended license. Now, police say Dean was driving a Pontiac Grand Am south on Ironwood when she crossed the center line and hit Alan Zellers on his motorcycle. Zellers was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. He died the next day.
Also facing charges, a South Bend man after posting violent threats on social media over the weekend. 26-year-old Isaiah Beavers was arrested Saturday afternoon before a peaceful rally was held later that night near the Morris Performing Arts Center in the wake of the recent police-involved shootings in Louisiana and Minnesota. An investigator learned of the Facebook post and immediately began to look into it. According to the affidavit, several comments by Beavers indicated possible violence, including efforts to intimidate people or to destroy property. A pretrial detention hearing has been set for Wednesday.
Coming up, Elkhart Central has a new boys basketball coach, plus the South Bend Cubs in action tonight at Four Winds Field. Anj has the highlights next.
News Center 16 Sports with Angelo DiCarlo.
It's a heart-wrenching day for the city of St. Joseph tonight, but also throughout Michiana. 2 officers killed today by an inmate at the Berrien County Courthouse. This is a sportscast, but no matter what our profession, we should all take a moment and pray for the families of the victims. And that was done at tonight's South Bend Cubs game, where the flags were at half-staff, and a moment of silence was held to remember the fallen officers. And then I imagine many in the park were hoping for a positive distraction on this evening. That's what sports can bring. South Bend Cubs hosting Bowling Green. First inning, the Hot Rods' Zachary Law flies to center. Donnie DeWeese throws home, but Jake Cronenworth beats the throw. Bowling Green up 1-0. Former WNDU producer Matt Deitchley in the house with his gorgeous young daughter Violet having some fun. And the Cubs were trying to get something going, but check out the defense by the Hot Rods. 6-4-3 double play. Doesn't get much prettier than that. Bowling Green wins this one by a score of 10-3. Now the South Bend Cubs are off tomorrow because of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. They'll be on the road starting Wednesday. Elkhart Central named Terry Smith its new boys basketball coach today. Smith has an extensive history as a coach, in particular at the college level. This is video of him while serving as the head men's basketball coach at Grand Valley State in the early 2000s. He also worked as an assistant women's basketball coach at Michigan State for 4 seasons. Golden State superstar Draymond Green was arrested over the weekend for assault, according to East Lansing police. Green played college hoops at Michigan State, where the incident happened. He's been charged with a misdemeanor assault and battery. The alleged incident happened around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday. And finally, an all-time NBA great and one of the classiest superstars in sports history has decided to retire. Tim Duncan is calling it quits after 19 years with the San Antonio Spurs. Duncan will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He won 5 NBA championships with the Spurs, 2 MVPs, and made 15 All-Star appearances. He was also a 3-time NBA Finals MVP and was named All-NBA 10 times in his career. Also today, Eric Atkins, the former Notre Dame point guard and captain, officially named to Mike Bray's staff. Mike Bray now has 4 former players on his staff.
All in the family.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks, Anj.
Well, after the break, we break down the latest on our top story, the tragedy that left 2 lawmen dead and 1 injured. The community of Berrien County in Michiana has been left in utter shock after 2 lawmen were shot to death.
The victims were longtime bailiffs at the Berrien County Courthouse in St. Joseph, men with distinguished careers serving the public. Those bailiffs are 63-year-old Ronald Kinzel and 61-year-old Joe Zangaro. Kinzel was a retired sergeant with the Benton Township Police Department who worked at the courthouse since 2005. Zangaro was the head of courthouse security and former commander of the Michigan State Police Post in Bridgman.
2 other people were shot, including Deputy James Atterbury Jr., an 18-year veteran. He is expected to recover. So is a civilian woman who was shot in the arm. Police are not identifying her yet. And this is the gunman, 45-year-old Larry Darnell Gordon of Coloma. Our sister station Wood TV says he was being held on sexual assault charges. He was being moved from a holding cell when he got a hold of Atterbury's gun, shot him, and shot and killed Zangaro and Kinzel, and injured the woman before 2 other bailiffs shot and killed him.
And stay with News Center 16, both on air and online, as we continue to follow this tragic shooting that has stunned so many. We'll bring you much more about the investigation and the 2 men who gave their lives.
And prayers for all those families involved tonight.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah, definitely. Weather, yellow days coming up here with the heat and humidity and a cool front approaching. We do have some chances for showers and thunderstorms starting tomorrow afternoon and really lasting on through Thursday. Just a bit of relief from the heat as we head into the weekend.
Okay, Mike, and thank you for joining us tonight.
We'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11.